could there ever be a rebellion or an actual political movement against the Kim regime?
So I think that under the current North Korean situation, the answer is no. In order to have that kind of uprising, what is needed is is proceeded for collective action.
From running his own business as a child in North Korea, including covertly traveling back and forth into China, to working for the Human Rights Foundation, headquartered in New York, Lee Sung-min has had an incredible journey in life. If you didn't catch part one of our special Looking North interview here on North Korea Now, then please do that, because I think you'll get a lot of background that will be helpful in understanding where Sung-min is coming from when we now ask for your opinions on some pressing issues related to North Korea. Thank you very much for continuing with us.
Thank you.
Recently, there's been this huge emphasis from the South Korean side on getting information into North Korea, inviting defectors to escape, or would-be defectors to escape through, for example, border loudspeakers. But there's also the civic groups, or the North Korean defector groups, who send via balloons, leaflets. Let's start there. How effective would you say those types of campaigns are in terms of actually influencing ordinary North Koreans and soldiers who might hear that?
They are effective to a certain extent. The reason is because, as you noted, that because of my work, working with the activist groups here, I do have a chance to see the videos smuggled out of the country, and what normally these videos are not reported in media, because as I noted in the early part of our talk, there is a lot of things we need to conceal for security reasons. But these balloons going to North Korea, and there's a landing in the residency areas. And how do we know? We know because the North Korean government produces anti-ballooning in their videos with the purpose to educate the residents there. For instance, things like don't pick up the balloons when you see, don't pick up any, the white balloons landing on mountain, on trees. And for instance, they instructed them to report to nearby police station and military base, etc. So that kind of the video, I actually received some video materials yesterday as well, smuggled out of North Korea. And there are a lot of things they're talking about the balloons. And also, how do we know they are effective? Kim Jong-un, Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of North Korean leader, recently confirmed, thankfully. Basically, she talked about it that, that South Korean activists, the balloons landed in our, the southern areas here and there, specifically pointing out the even areas where the balloons landed. So in my view, either balloons or loudspeakers, of course, they do have its own pros and cons. They have its own, their own limitations. But I think they do have one way or another contributing to influencing North Koreans' psyche. So otherwise, why North Korean regime would be reacting angrily? If that is meaningless or not effective, they wouldn't probably react that way. They have done.
What did you make of the balloons that have been coming from North Korea to South Korea, though? Because we've been told the same thing. Don't touch it, contact the authorities.
Right.
Frankly, as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't want to touch it, not so much because of information, but because of some of the unpleasant material that's been sent. I mean, I think by and large it's just been waste paper and things of that nature. But what's your view on the fact that North Korea has been sending these balloons this way?
I think that's just absurd, in my view. First of all, it's just the contents we see, what they are sending, it's just it's unfathomable, that especially that is something done by sovereign states, as they call it. And, there is human feces and all kinds of, the dirty things and sending it, to the balloon to another country. I think that what it tells us is basically North Korea has nothing to tell, nothing to boast about, except for trash. When you see that, when that thinking about the balloon, that it goes, of course, like back to during the time of immemorial, from the World War I, World War II, and Korean War. They used it to influence the psyche of the other side. But usually, as we know, the content that they send is to influence other, right? Whether it's ideology or certain things to talk about. But I think that North Korea, they send the trash, not necessarily because they intend to send trash, but in my view, they have nothing to send, nothing to both talk about it. So that's the reality. It's kind of interesting. When Kim Jong-un came to power in 2010, I think he promised one thing to North Korean people. Then people remember that. Basically what he said was that we will need to, basically he said, under my leadership, we will need to further tighten our belt, right? So in other words, economically, our country will be much better. So that gave some hope to North Korean people. But I think that, that was now 14 years ago, right? Not much changed. If anything, the situation, besides any cosmetics, the water park, in Pyongyang, and some nice, colorful buildings for scientists. Besides that, the situations for normal people, the average citizen, it has gotten much, much worse. During the pandemic, we know there's a lot of situations, controls and movements, and also regulations of the market activities, and a lot of people rely on the trading, smuggling activities, but basically all they was shut down. So, some cosmetic, differences, but a lot of people is disappointed with the regime.
And then you've also got the flooding this summer, which Kim Jong-un himself has been shown to be reacting to. Do you feel these reasons that you've just outlined there are the main motivating factors why NK Insider, your platform, has been recently predicting a wave of defections? And that, just to look at the data from the first half of this year, the number of North Korean defectors who made it to South Korea was 105. That's up from 99 during the same period last year. Relatively low compared with the pre-COVID years and also the pre-Kim Jong-un years, because as we know, he's been clamping down on it even before COVID. But there have been some high-profile cases as well, like the diplomat out of Cuba. So do you feel that the motivations you've already mentioned are behind this expected wave? And if not, what else would be driving that? And do you feel that the wave is going to get somehow bigger than it already is?
So North Korea today is no longer the North Korea that used to be pre-pandemic era or during the even Kim Jong-il era. There is no loyalty towards the government, no belief in the system. Everyone is busy to look after themselves through market activities. So that's one. And externally, we see that, through the Ryul, for instance, that diplomat recently from Cuba, and also Mr. Taeyong-ho, all
from the
others,
British Embassy.
British Embassy, the statistics indicates there's increasing number of high-ranking defectors. So a lot of people now is kind of North Koreans perceive. North Koreans see. North Korea is no longer the country respected outside the country, abroad. If anything, it's kind of a shame to talk about your identity, your nationality. So it's not surprising to some, restaurant workers or IT workers, when they come out of the dormitory, they all take off the badges of the leaders because they don't want to be identified as a North Korean because they are not so proud of it. So this kind of situation now is happening, and North Korea tried to prevent the defection by fortifying the border. But I don't think that would last forever because you cannot forcibly contain the people, the people's will, for freedom and to live. And so I think that because there's internal pressure, fear, and hardships, we all go together now, inside, outside North Korea.
What about the human rights situation that you obviously work with directly in your title? Is that just as problematic as ever, or is it even more tough in North Korea today if you are considered to be disloyal?
So I think that if the economic situation is better, I think that it overall that will provide a better situation for people, for the average citizen. But because that the situation has been not much improved, if anything has gotten tougher because of the COVID-related regulations and shutdown, and we see even this more severe punishments for external information consumption in North Korea. How do we know? We know that since 2020, they enacted 3 laws, the acts basically intended to punish people watching South Korean content or wearing the crosses that is different from North Korean style, even speaking South Korean, using South Korean words in their communication. So basically, the Kim Jong-un tries to control everything about you as a human, as a, the human, what you do, what you say, what you think. He's trying to control everything. But I think this is impossible to do that. So this is the one situation. And as the pressure, internal pressure, going up, and for the average citizen, the life gets tougher. Why? Because North Korean system operates based on the pressure, plus, is not commonly talked about it, plus based on bribe. Right? So they need to bribes, they'll squeeze in more the average person. So how do you know is we see even the outside the country as well. There's some writers for Inca Insider, for instance, coming from Russia, directly worked in the Moscow and the Vladivostok in the Far Eastern Russia. And they have communications with the people there, still working in that area. And during the COVID, no, it is not secret. North Korean workers already received very minimum, small amount of payments from the government because government takes away most of it. And during the COVID, they further cut their wages because the government needed more cash. They squeezed the common people even more. So it's a situation is like it's not surprising they compare it to modern slavery.
Do you feel though that could flip the other way if they don't loosen the border and you've got this internal pressure? Could there ever be a rebellion or an actual political movement against the Kim regime? Is that conceivable in your mind, looking in from the outside?
So I think that under the current North Korean situation, the answer is no. In order to have that kind of uprising, what is needed is coordination. The coordination is proceeded for collective action. But I think when the people trying to do that kind of action, there needs to be a conviction. If we do, we'll win, right? We'll achieve our objective. But I think under North Korean condition, there is it's hard to have that kind of conviction because we know that North Korean system will kill whoever you are. If you are uprising coming out, especially if you are leading that kind of a movement, they will kill you, not just you, but use all entire generations. So that's the fear, real fear there. And but I think I think that the irony is, all people know basically that there is the system is fraud, and that is something there needs to be a change, but simply they cannot express it publicly or coordinate the action with one another. That's the issue now in North Korea.
But if change is not possible from the inside, then it kind of has to come from the outside, doesn't it? Are there any more reasons for optimism that people like yourself and others working for the benefit of North Koreans, but not necessarily the benefit of Pyongyang, that their efforts could actually bear fruit?
Yeah, in order to bring about change in North Korea, I think that internal change is also most condition. there must be internal the efforts and combined with external efforts. Because I do believe that external efforts alone is not sufficient, because at the end of the day, the changes should be people-directed and people-led. And I think that, I think that, I do still hope for the internal, in the people-directed change. The reason is because, as North Korean people mindset has a profound change since the 1990s, since around the famine, and North Korean regime is also aware of that as well. How do we know? That when Kim Jong-un trying to portray it as a benevolent, the fatherly figure, kind of going out to the flooded area and projecting images, looking after people. And also the things like immediately after apologizing, after construction incident, for instance, a few years ago in Pyongyang, there was the apartment building collapse. They immediately issued and acknowledged it in media. The reason is because the North Korean people is not as blind as it used to be. So they need to be more responsive to the people. And also, as you know, now it's like over 6 million cell phone subscribers in North Korea. So no longer you can control the information. You have to talk about it. To people communicate it quickly. So my point here is that, the political science is talking about certain one theory called like a tipping point. There is when society reaches a certain point, maybe up to that point may appear like stable, but if there is gives a little more, there is inertia, gives a little more weight is added to that, that might tip over. So I think that the North Korean society, if anything, is changing towards that direction, not necessarily in favor of the North Korean regime. If North Korean regime, they want to, continue to stay in power, they need to listen to people. They need to think about the interest of the people. That's what Kim Jong-un is trying to, it appears like, projecting that kind of image. But of course, that is not how actually feel on the ground, because what they are experiencing is awful. A lot of people struggling with basic food. So yeah, that is the internal situation. Externally, I think that what we could do is, helping sending external information to North Koreans and reaching out to people, already North Koreans who are overseas, talk about and the situations North Korea in relation to others, and also give them hope. When North Korea changes, there is a better alternative.
But there is a possibility of a darker future. For example, you look at what's happening now with Russia and Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine something like that happening with Russia and North Korea fighting together against South Korea in our lifetime?
It sounds like the Korean War 2.0 and on the Korean Peninsula. But honestly, no. I do not imagine. Of course, it seems like these days, like anything could happen. Whoever imagined, like in this 21st century, a trench war, like throwing the hand grenade and fighting each other physically with the rifles or things like that. That is what is happening in the Ukraine. But I think that the Korean situation is different. If you think about the situation where North Korea is in. Yes, North Korea has developed the weapons, missiles, or things like that. But I think in the war itself, I don't think that would it would lead to any benefit to North Korean government. The reason why let's putting aside all the hard powers, economic power, South Korea, U.S. and South Korean alliance, military. Let's putting that all aside, and let's putting aside even sophisticated South Korean military power. Let's put aside, when you're a leader, usually before engaging in any kind of war, you have to think about what you're going to do after the war, not just about the winning war, right? So let's imagine Kim Jong-un, this is a very unlikely scenario. Kim Jong-un won the war in the Second Korean War, let's imagine the scenario. And then so what? And then what? What are you going to do? He couldn't manage the situation. The way North Korea has managed to sustain the system itself, the Western cult of personality, tight control of information, and fear of politics. There are over 50 million well-educated, well-functioning democratic civil society community here in South Korea. Who gonna listen to the order of Kim Jong-un? After he occupied South Korea, he cannot control. He is able to control North Korean system because there is no internet. People are not allowed to leave the country. So he is only able to maintain the system. There is a reason why I think that he is giving up the unification policy, because unification ultimately leads to destruction of his power. He is only able to maintain his power only when he is able to contain his zone. Expanding into South is suicidal.
But let's just say there's been a lot of talk about Kim Jong-un's heir, for example. Let's just say there wasn't an heir that was ready to take over if there was a need for that. Based on what you know, and from your conversations with diplomats and government officials, do you feel that there would be a power struggle in which a new dictator would arise? Or could you see a scenario in which North Korea would be suddenly vulnerable to an outside power like South Korea or China coming in with an influence over the next step?
I don't think that the first generation of the power industry is possible. It may be possible politically, but I think that is not sustainable in North Korea. Even though in the third generation, we see the crumbling, North Korean society taking part here, torn apart here and there from the elites, and not to mention, at the bottom level. So that's what is happening today, and even there is a lot of question like sustainability of that North Korean system. I think that the first power transfer. I don't think the North Koreans would support. I know there is a different view that some people say, because the North Korean system is so structured, it's efficient, they could put anyone there and operate the system. But I don't think the North Korean people would tolerate that system.
Do you have any particular message that you'd want to share before we let you go today with the South Korean government or the US government or both? If you could steer their policy. We've seen years of strategic patience, as it was known years ago, and then we saw suddenly this flurry of diplomacy under Moon Jae-in and Donald Trump. We've got a US election later this year. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol will still be the South Korean president then. How would you like to see things play out diplomatically?
The countries such as South Korea and the United States has the power to influence that the positive tends to take place at a faster and more secure the manner, if only they do the policies in the right manner. But I think that one unfortunate aspect I have seen time again and again is every time different administration comes in, whether South Korea or the United States, the policies towards North Korea could change radically. In a way, sometimes it's almost unpredictable. So maybe that unpredictability provides some opportunities to change some courses of that diplomatic engagements. But I think that at the end of the day, we need to think about the fundamentals. The fundamentals such as where all these the problems are coming from. What is the causative factor of this issue? I think that the problem, whether we are talking about the missile issues or nuclear issues or proliferation issues, human rights issues, that all points to North Korean political system. That political system, the causes, the political prison camp, severe human rights violations, all the issues we are seeing. So what is the way? So in other words, in order to address the problems, we need to address the core issue, the cause, the cancer of the problem. So in this case, we need to change North Korean system. I'm not necessarily, decimating Kim Jong-un. We need to create a sufficient pressure on Kim Jong-un. Otherwise, he couldn't do anything. He needs to change. He convinced him he needs to change the course of his conduct.
Are you aware of any sources of pressure, though, other than sanctions? When you've got Russia and China as well, potentially helping North Korea get around sanctions, there's always this limitation, and dialogue runs the risk of North Korea just stringing us along. I say us as in the outside world who are willing to engage in dialogue. So is there a third way?
Yeah, I think that what Russia and China is doing, it brings effect in a way that sustains the North Korean regime, because geopolitical contentions here, the China versus the United States, and Cold War context now rising, the Cold War 2.0, but I think that. There is still a way to influence, to affect the change inside North Korea. All the external powers, as I'm saying, is yes, important, but I think that internal change will be even more important, if you induce that change. So I think that this is, we have been talking about time and again, many human rights activists, and almost every 34,000 North Korean defectors spoke about the importance of the sending the external information and educating North Koreans. There are alternatives, and educating elites in South North Korea. There are better ways. So this is something like the country's either new administration in the United States and current South Korean governments, should think about. And I think the good news is that South Korean governments. I'm talking about regardless of the political party, whether Yoon Suk-yeol administration, whoever the administration comes in. If you think about seriously, solving the problem, putting aside all politics, if you want to address North Koreans to cancel over this problem and resolve these human rights violations and security issues, we need to put sufficient pressure on North Korean government to change. How can you do that? I think the most powerful way is to approach North Korean people with the information of the outside world. When to Kim Jong-un, what he most afraid of is internal, the people, North Korean people, how he is a consensus of how the outside world perceive him, but when North Korean people says doesn't no longer tolerate the North Korean regime policy, Kim Jong-un wouldn't have nothing but to change. He'll be pressured to change. So I think that last August 15th, President Yoon, he gave a speech on new unification doctrine, on South Korea's new policy. I think that he talked about various points of that the dealing with North Korea and how to achieve the unified Korea based on the freedom and liberal democracy. I think the one thing he talked about is reaching out, creating the desire among North Koreans for change. The change desire is already there, in my view, but we could accelerate it. And he talked about the sending North Koreans, outside information, and creating the North Korean Freedom and Human Rights Fund, the program that supports activist groups, to facilitate that kind of information consumption inside North Korea. I think that kind of things is important. That is sounds to me cliche, but it's not. It's not. That's the weakest link of the North Korean system. If you create that pressure internally, when North Koreans are aware, there is a much better way to do this. Why we are doing this way, make it worse, make us suffering. And he has to change. He wouldn't have any other way around. So this coordination is needed between countries, United States and South Korea.
Lee Sung-min, it's been such a pleasure having you here to share this space with me today, but also to gain, and much more so to gain, all of your expertise and insights from years working from South Korea and the United States, and many more years as well, based within North Korea. We hope that one day, under whatever circumstances, you're able to travel freely to Haesan and beyond in a way that gives you the satisfaction of the years of your efforts. Thank you, Lee Sung-min, Director of the Korea Desk at the Human Rights Foundation. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And we hope that you also gained some insights from that interview with Isung Min. If you want to reach out to us with any of your own messages, any of your own suggestions, please do get involved in the comments. If you want to support our channel so we can bring you more content like this, we do really appreciate your likes, your subscribing, and also your willingness to share this with other people to spread the word about what we're doing. Until next time, this has been Looking North.